The East African Business Council has urged the Democratic Republic of Congo to reconsider its decision to suspend Rwanda's flights to the country, as the decision violates trade and cooperation principles in the East African community that the DRC recently joined.
And those engaged in cross-border using Port of Mombasa and the Northern Corridor have noted that the cooperation between the private and public sectors is important in accelerating and improving trade.
Officials in the health sector say they have been upgrading service delivery in preparation for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in order to cater for delegates during a major gathering.
And on the globe, in Ghana, sexual assault victims must show reports that are medical to prove that they've been assaulted before a rape suspect can be prosecuted. But a lawmaker is making a difference, seeking to abolish the health exam requirement so that more women can be able to pursue justice. Thank you so much once again for choosing RTV News. I'm Isabel Masozera.
My name is Sam Kalisa.
All right, we get to our top story. The East African Business Council has urged the DRC to reconsider its decision to suspend Rwanda's flights to the country, as the decision violates trade and cooperation principles in the East African community that the DRC recently joined. Now, meanwhile, the Rwandan government continues to deny allegations by the DRC that it supports M23 rebel groups. We have more.
It has been 2 months since the Democratic Republic of Congo was welcomed into the East African community. However, so far the country has not been adopted in all sectors and disciplines of the region, as there are some requirements to be fulfilled. Those include the East African Business Council. Denis Karera, the vice chairman of the council, noted that DRC's decision to suspend Rwanda's flights to the country jeopardizes trade and commerce in the region. Looking at this in a broad sense, it is Rwanda that transports Congolese traders to the East Africa. Yes, there is Kenya Airlines as well, but the fact that Rwanda has been carrying out flights to Lubumbashi, Goma and Kinshasa, it is a large number of people coming to the EAC or connecting them to other destinations like China, India, Dubai and other places. Suspending its flights is stopping Congolese traders, but also traders in the region who had been connecting to the DRC market. It is not right to suspend the flights even on small matters. Last week, we were in Goma discussing with our colleagues on how they can join the EAC Business Council, but that cannot happen without movement of people. So, to us, the decision was so abrupt, and we request the DRC to review the decision, because the only thing that can grow this region is trade between member states. Last week, the DRC suspended Rwanda's flights to the country after allegations that Rwanda is supporting the M23 rebel group that continues fighting the armed forces of the Democratic Republic of Congo, FARDC. Rwanda has denied the allegations, stressing that it is not supporting the M23 rebel group, as reiterated by the deputy spokesperson of the government, Ale Mukuradinda. It should be clear. We will continue stressing it. The issues between the DRC government and the M23 is a Congolese problem that the nationals of that country should resolve among themselves, and if they don't do that, the problem will continue. The fact that some Congolese nationals speak near Rwanda doesn't mean that they should belong to Rwanda whenever an issue arises, or be called people that are supported by Rwanda. Gasominadi Jean-Baptiste, a lawyer who closely follows the situation in the DRC, finds that the key to insecurity in the eastern part of the DRC is the poor governance that has failed to address the issue of more than 140 armed groups in the country, including the FDLR, which is mainly made up of those that perpetrated the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. A country like DRC, with close to 100 million people with natural resources, a country that is more than 80 times bigger than Rwanda, it shames us to hear that all our problems are caused by Rwanda. There are people that hate Rwanda, maybe not as a country, but some people in Rwanda. After the ex-Rwandan forces and the Interahamwe militia that collaborated to execute the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi and were later defeated by the RPF, they fled to the DRC, but they were not disarmed or put to refugee camps. Neither did they abandon the ideology of massacring the Tutsi, looking to do so whenever an opportunity arose. So this issue has a broader picture, backed by the genocide ideology to wipe out the Tutsi. At various times, President Paul Kagame has also continued to point out that the situation in the eastern part of the DRC is confusing, as it is unclear how the UN peacekeeping mission in that country, MONUSCO, have failed to restore peace in collaboration with the FARDC, despite more than $1 billion spent every year to sustain the mission. While receiving the oath of new leaders in February 8th this year, the president assured Rwandans that, although terrorist groups such as FDLR are still present, Rwanda's security is stable. We are following it closely. Our enemy, for more than 25 years now, is still there. But those issues, most of which originate from the region, issues that keep coming back after 3 or 5 years, trying to impose pressure on us, Rwanda, maybe they will continue. But what I can say is that we are always ready to fight them, and they will not stop us from developing as we should. If we have to live with it for long, we will. But for us, all we want is peace for our country and the region. We want peace for everyone. FARDC rocket shelling hit the Kinigi and Nyanja sectors of Musanze district last week, following the same incident that happened on March 19th this year. Rwanda has also announced that 2 of its soldiers were kidnapped by the FARDC in collaboration with the FDLR last week. The government of Rwanda has denounced the acts of aggression and committed to seeking a solution to the matter through dialogue. And as we move ahead to service matters now, hospitality and other related service providers are ready to provide good service to the guests that will attend the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in June. However, they claim to have problems with poor connections related to electronic payments that are asking those in charge to follow up and resolve the problems. Ghislaine Mugweneza has more on the report.
Service providers in hospitality sector, tour guides and those selling crafts are among those that are mostly visited by guests. Those providing these services are ready to welcome the guests of the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. Some have already started finding electronic billing machines that will facilitate the means of payments.
We have all they need. They will find everything here. We even receive dollars and euros. We even use Visa cards. The client will have no problem. Visa card makes things easier. Sometimes a client can run out of money, and instead of going to withdraw money at the bank, we do use their Visa cards. We have the EBM here.
We are really ready. We have made in Rwanda products like t-shirts, capes, and many things that will remind them that they have been to Rwanda. As Rwanda prepares to host the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, business people and those in hospitality sector are encouraged to use electronic and other technological means of payments. However, there are problems that should be addressed due to the fact that they can negatively affect service delivery if not solved.
Ubu buryo ni uburyo bwiza kuko turi mu iterambere ikoranabuhanga ridufashamo kugira ngo.
This is an effective way because we have technology that makes it faster. We have point of sales system, POS. We work with different banks. Every bank gave us their POS. The only problem we have is that some POS have connection problems. This is why we ask those in charge to talk to the banks and see how to solve this problem as soon as possible, because I can offer good service and please the client, but when it reaches the payment moment and the client has no time, you find that the connection is very poor, while all the services were effective. And only that problem could destroy everything.
Rwanda Revenue Authority has said that the problems found in electronic means of payment should be solved in partnership with different levels.
If it is banks' problems or network operation institutions, we are asking them to help us and solve these problems, because we cannot ask them to provide good service while they have insufficient infrastructure. Let us work on providing sufficient infrastructure that will enable you to provide good service.
The Director of Payment Systems at the National Bank of Rwanda, John Karamuka, has said that they are aware of some problems and they are being solved.
Ikibazo mu byukuri n'ubwo dufite komite irimo RURA na ICT natwe twakomeje kwigaho kugira ngo twumve.
We are aware of some problems and we are working on them, like the network problem. There is a committee in RURA that is working on it. Our ICT team is also finding out if the problem is technological equipment or in banks. Because one equipment can have a problem and a person would think that it is the network problem. We have found out that sometimes when the network is lost, you are required to restart the laptop. There are many things to be taught about using electronic payments. We found out that sometimes banks provide electronic equipment to people but do not teach them how to use them. We are aware of those problems and we are going to put more effort in addressing them.
The Rwanda Revenue Authority encourages business service providers to utilize electronic billing machines as a trusted means of payments and also productive to the country. Figures from the Rwanda Revenue Authority indicate that in 2013, 104,349 EBM receipts were received and 2,966,319 in 2022. Ghislaine Mugwaneza, RTV News.
Thank you, Ghislaine. Now, the first ever World Telecommunication and Development Conference to be held on the African soil will take place here in Rwanda from the 6th to the 16th of June. Now, this is the 8th edition of the WTDC, and it is expected to attract at least 1,300 delegates. Now, with us in studio to elaborate more on the conference is Mr. Yves Iradukunda, who is the Permanent Secretary in Rwanda's Ministry of ICT and Innovation. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me.
All right, now I want us to begin with a question that I have for you to explain what significance of this conference being hosted on the African soil, but also most importantly for the first time here in Rwanda, and Rwanda being chosen as the venue of choice. What would you say is the significance of that?
Oh, thank you very much. The WTDC conference is one of the main events of the International Telecommunication Union, which is one of the oldest organizations. The significance of this conference is really the fact that Rwanda is one among 193 member states of the ITU, and the conference focuses on the topics of telecommunication development, yet on its 8th edition is taking place for the first time on the continent. So this is not just a Rwandan event, it's a global event, but particularly a topic of interest to Africa in particular. And Rwanda, having been investing significantly in technology and centering technology at economic and social development, and really taking a leadership role to bring along initiatives and programs, the WTDC will be an opportunity to position Rwanda, but also to drive the discussions around policy, projects, and initiatives that can shape a better world through telecommunications. So the theme is connecting unconnected to achieve sustainable development, and we believe Rwanda will have an opportunity to engage in significant discussions.
All right, sir. And what sort of expectations can the general public have from a gathering of this magnitude? And when it comes to Africa's connectivity and development, of course, solving such problems of connectivity and development, what should the general public expect?
Thank you. We're expecting, as you mentioned, more than 1,300 delegates. And this is significant to the Kigali and the Rwandans for hosting those number of people. There will be policymakers, business leaders, captains in the industry of telecommunication. Therefore, we expect a lot of exchange from a business perspective. For businesses to be able to cut deals with these international delegates, but also for a position of Rwanda that has been hosting significant events as it affects business, as it affects tourism. But ultimately, the outcomes of the conference will be ones that are really shaping the telecommunication industry for the next 4 years.
Indeed, thanks for that. But another question on my mind is that we have only about 8 years before the deadline that the world gave itself to attain the SDGs. How can Rwanda be an inspiration for other African countries, you say? And when it comes to ICT development, especially now, the country will be hosting this conference. What is there for the world to learn?
Thank you very much, and it's a very important question that this very conference is seeking to address. As much as many countries like Rwanda have invested significantly in infrastructure, there still are challenges that preventing for many people to access technology. Therefore, the key discussions, and in particular, one of the conference segments around Partner to Connect is really to call upon leaders from across the world to announce new resources, new initiatives, new programs to leave no one behind and connect all the population. And I think Rwanda has had its fair lessons when it comes to driving technology adoption. We've invested significantly in infrastructure, but a lot of efforts are being done to make sure there's more access to smart devices, digital literacy for the population, but also advanced skills for engineers and software developers that can design the right solutions to drive adoption. So I think it's the right platform for a global discussion. I believe that Rwanda will have a lot to share, but particularly opportunities for both the business community, young people that are driving innovation within our ecosystem, as well as women in leadership positions, particularly within the telecommunications sector.
All right, sir. And finally, before we let you go and conclude this interview, is there anything else you would like to share with us regarding this particular conference?
I call upon the Rwandan community, particularly the youth and the business community, to take full advantage of the WTDC conference. We will have several delegates in town, so it's an opportunity to engage for business and as well as really showcase what Rwanda has to offer in hospitality and culture. So I call upon the community to engage, particularly the youth. We'll have a segment on the youth, the Global Connect Youth Summit, where 500 youth will travel to Rwanda to give their voice to the topic of telecommunication development. So this is very exciting, and I look forward to seeing many of the Rwandan youth at this important conference.
All right, now you heard it from the horse's mouth. I want to say special thanks to Mr. Yves Iradukunda, the Permanent Secretary in Rwanda's Ministry of ICT and Innovation. Now moving on, officials from the health sector say that they have been upgrading service delivery in preparation for the Commonwealth Head of Government meeting in order to cater for delegates during the major gathering. We have more. Preparations in the health services are evident in the latest medical equipment, infrastructure, and hygiene in hospitals. Some foreigners who already live in Rwanda are appreciative of the quality of health services they receive.
Overall, I would say that it is really very, very good. Very good, and then I would even appreciate people to come to visit Rwanda to see the medical facilities which may help Rwanda to enrich the facilities of medical treatment in Rwanda.
The medical facilities have improved quite a bit now, and also the infrastructure is great right now. But I think they need a bit more of development in customer service, so that delays and how the procedure goes on, a bit more organized.
Some health officials and health professionals say beyond preparations for Choga meeting, they have been eager to improve service delivery for the sake of their clients.
A key hospital in that journey, But to reach that goal, I think there are mainly three components. There should be adequate infrastructure, equipment, but also competent human resource. So we are trying to tackle on these three components with the support of the government. But as we are now, we are receiving patients from different countries, mostly neighboring countries. As far as now, I think there is a journey. There is a long journey, but I think the services that we provide, we are trying to improve them, and we hope that in the near future we'll get more patients, not only from neighboring countries, but mostly from other parts of African countries.
Professor Emmanuel Rudachemwa, a medical specialist and university lecturer, says that the medical sector in Rwanda is so advanced and that no Rwandan or foreigner has to worry about receiving treatment in a hospital.
Most
people don't actually come in sick. You find that more than 80% are not severe cases. For people who have chronic diseases, there is no need to worry because we have a hospital that is equipped to help people, even cases where one needs kidney cleansing services. There are high-level diagnostics of these devices. For instance, someone who has had an incident like a stroke often feels like a mental accident or a heart attack, and the heart has a problem. We have a hospital well equipped to provide quality care in the event of such a problem. So there is big progress.
Emergency response is one of the main ways that can help in the emergency-related scenarios. The coordinator of the emergency response services, known as SAMO, at the RBC National Center for Health, says there are 330 ambulances nationwide, but the Chogam gathering has been given 18 ambulances to serve exclusively. We have also selected ambulances for the event itself, and we have been examining closely their state to see whether we need to improve them or not. We will be using 18 ambulances wherever there is a large crowd, like at the airport and where people will be meeting and sleeping. Our services will be available. Our ambulances are equipped with adequate medical care, and the most qualified physicians will be in those ambulances. We are also looking into increasing the number of operators for the emergency helplines because we anticipate high traffic during that time. Health officials say when Chogam participants travel to different parts of the country to visit nature attractions such as parks, health services will be in reach. Hotel and tourism staff have also been trained to provide first aid when necessary.
Now, moving ahead to other matters, those engaged in a cross-border using the port of Mombasa and the Northern Corridor have noted that cooperation between the private and public sectors is important in accelerating and improving trade by removing barriers. This was discussed in the Northern Corridor Technical Committee meeting held in Kigali on Monday. Betty Mutoni filed this report.
Representatives of private and public sectors from different countries, including Rwanda, are in the discussion focusing on how to make Northern Corridor more productive and finding solutions to the problem traders face. Although they believe that collaboration between Northern Corridor and Central Corridor will help in delivering goods to the residents of these regional countries, there are challenges to be discussed, including road safety of the cross-border traders, as it is explained by Kaita Chirwa, a trader from Rwanda, and Nzoihera from Burundi.
The other one is the issues of security, still along the corridors, the northern corridors. The insecurity is mainly caused by thieves, and sometimes the drivers get injured or lose their lives. So we would like to see the improvement of the security along the northern corridors. And I think this is something that we can all address as member states. The road toll fees, sometimes our trucks get charged fees that are beyond the agreed rates. The agreed rates of $152 according to what the operators submit to the private sector federation.
There are some challenges we are still facing, where on the borders, sometimes traders are disturbed, so we would like to request these public and private sectors to collaborate, which will help the cross-border trade easily.
The Executive Secretary of Northern Corridor Transit and Transport Coordination Authority explains the way some of the challenges have been solved.
It used to take like 9 days for a container to move from the port of Mombasa by road to Malaba, which is the border between Uganda and Kenya. And it used to take around 14 days for that container to go back from coming from Mombasa to Kampala and back. It reduced this to 3 days and 7 days to return, which is like a 50% savings. Because of all stakeholders coming together, be it transporters, be it public, the cost of transport has gone down.
The chairperson of Public-Private Partnership of Northern Corridor noted that the collaboration between the public and private sectors has led to the implementation of policies that effectively address the issue facing private sector in cross-border trade.
But we've seen different levels of implementation when it comes to government. So willingness depends on the leadership in the government. A good example is Rwanda is very responsive. I was able to do the Goma Kigali. The roads are very good standards. Very effective management of systems. So the use of non-intrusive, when I say non-intrusive is, I did not see any policeman stopping us on the road to ask us whether we have a license or what. There are cameras. So it depends on how the country moves.
The Northern Corridor begins at Mombasa, runs through Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, South Sudan, Burundi, and Democratic Republic of Congo. Betty Mutoni, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Betty. Now, various service providers in Rwanda have taken initiative to prepare for CHOGM, and the transport sector has not been left behind. We asked a driver what has been done in anticipation of the summit, and here is what he had to say.
iyo ndi hariya ndi umushoferi mba mpagarariye igihugu mbabagarariye na kampani yanjye mba ngomba kuyihesha amanota kandi nkahesha n'igihugu cyanjye amanota. Icyambere ubanza kumwibwira.
First I introduce myself and welcome them into the car. Then go over the destination of our trip and estimate our arrival time. I then ask them how their flight went and give them a bit of a weather forecast and how that might factor into our journey, which I think makes them feel at ease.
Akisanga
After finding out where they will be staying, I tell them about the volcano parks like Akagera and Nyungwe and urge them to visit, as well as help them with information like how long the journey would take and what hotels are suitable to accommodate clients. I ought to be careful about having religious symbols in the car as well as those of sports teams. Experts in various sectors will be attending, and the summit will be the first of its kind happening here in Rwanda, and I think there will be more big meetings like it hosted here in the future. I look forward to expanding my network during the summit and improving the quality of my service.
First of all,
Foreigners often speak different languages. We prefer an ethical driver that is fluent in at least one leading international language. We have instructed our drivers to show them the sights in Rwanda. They might want to return after the summit based on how beautiful they found Rwanda and how well they were received.
That's so amazing. And moving ahead to other matters, 20 countries, including Rwanda, that compose the Regional Center for Mapping of Resources for Development, opened a workshop in Kigali for 2 days with an aim of building the capacity of institutions within the RCMRD member states.
Rwanda has developed various services and projects meant to address the developmental challenges in Rwanda within the project geographical scope in the thematic area of weather and climate, land use and land cover, and ecosystem, water and related disasters. Dr. Emmanuel Nkurunziza, the Director General of the Regional Center for Mapping of Resources for Development, tells the significance for mapping of resources for development.
Over the years, the center has provided some services in Rwanda, including land use and land cover mapping. Now we are doing crop mapping, which is very important because it helps you to monitor crop health before the crops are actually harvested. You can tell whether the harvest will be optimum or it will actually come down. That way you can be able to plan in advance whether you need to get supplementary supplies from somewhere else. The same thing with the natural resource monitoring. You can tell whether your forests are depleting or land is being taken up by urban development. So all these are the services we are doing.
The Chief Executive Officer of Rwanda Space Agency, Colonel Francis Ngabo, notes that satellite mapping helps in providing information on regular basis, as he explains.
The Space Agency is collaborating with different regional and international partners to acquire satellite imageries that can be used for mapping, but on more regular basis, in a way that we believe that we'll be able to receive satellite imageries on a more regular way with the kind of partnership we are doing with our different regional and international organizations. We believe that there's a way we can be receiving maps, satellite maps, within weeks, if not days.
According to the Director General for Agriculture Modernization in the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources, Dr. Octave Semwaga, the data of mapping of resources guides Minagri in the decision-making, as he explains.
Every month we are aside on the Minagri, there is a bulletin data which is produced, where exactly the crop are monitored, and beside that information, we'll be looking at what kind of ways, for example, for monitoring also other type of natural resources that we have, and which kind of ways should be set up to make sure that stakeholders are informed and also are benefiting from the collected data.
The Regional Center for Mapping of Resources for Development was formed by the Organization of African Unity in 1975, and Rwanda joined in 2010. Betty Mutoni, RwandaTV News.
All right, now that report brings us to the end of today's bulletin. Thank you so much for sticking with us.
On behalf of the entire news and technical team, many thanks, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye and have a fruitful week ahead.